Hello and welcome to Serial at Midnight. I'm Heath and we are talking about Elvis. That's right. The King has arrived on the 4K Ultra HD format, also on Blu-ray, also on digital. I've gotten so many questions from you guys wanting to know what I think about this movie because I'm a huge Elvis fan, as a lot of you guys know. I've shot videos. I've got a video about from Tupelo. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to reverse the order that I usually do these things. We're going to talk about the technical aspects of this disc first, and then I'm going to give you my full movie review, everything that I think about Elvis. So as near as I can tell, my research tells me Elvis was shot in 6.5K, digitally of course, and it was finished in 4K. So this is not an upscale, this is a native 4K transfer, a digital transfer. So digital 4K transfers have less, they're more limited than a 35 millimeter. Now they don't have the grain, they're cleaner, but they're flatter to me too. A digital 4K presentation lacks some of the layers and the nuance that a 35 millimeter transfer will have, but Elvis looks very good on 4K because, of course, it is a 4K film. The HDR looks really good. Skin tones are great. Also, we have multiple sound options here. It sounds great. A movie about Elvis and his music it lives and dies on what it sounds like, right? So they've got a Dolby Atmos mix that sounds great, and there's also a 5.1 mix. English descriptive is here as well, and lots of different audio options and subtitle options. But it sounds good. It looks good. It would have looked better on film, but that's not the world we're living in anymore. So this is as good as Elvis is ever going to look. And if you're wondering if it's worth, do you get the Blu-ray or do you get the 4K? If you are 4K capable, get the 4K. In fact, if you're not 4K capable, get the 4K because it's got the Blu-ray, which has all the special features, and it's got the 4K. And if you're not 4K capable now, you will be at some point, and you've future-proofed your collection. There are more supplements here than I was expecting. Normally with movies like this, we get just sort of breezy dandelion features. There's actually more going on here than I was expecting. There's a 22-minute making of feature called Bigger Than Life, The Story of Elvis. They talk to Austin Butler, they talk to Baz Luhrmann, they talk to Tom Hanks, they talk to pretty much everybody that you want them to talk to. And there's actually some stuff that comes out of this. For instance, Baz Luhrmann did not want to necessarily make a movie about Elvis. It's not intended to be a biopic. He was more interested in making a movie about pop culture in the 50s and the 60s, and Elvis was the gateway for him to do that. That's something I picked up on when watching the movie, but I appreciated having it confirmed by Baz Luhrmann in this making of. There's also something that comes out is that Austin Butler, he sent in a tape of him singing at a piano as his audition, and they reference this and he's crying at the piano, but we don't get to see it. Why could they not have included that on this package? That would have been fantastic. Rock and Roll Fantasy, the music and artists behind Elvis. So that's focusing on the music and some of the people that were helping to recreate what they're trying to do here. It's about 7 minutes long. Actually, I think that one's 8 minutes long. Fit for a King, the style of Elvis, is about 7 minutes dedicated to the costumes, the period look, the pink suits and all the shirts and things like that. And Viva Australia, recreating iconic locations for Elvis, is essentially how they how they recreated Memphis, they recreated Beale Street and Graceland in Australia. Now, I actually thought, when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, they must actually be filming this in Graceland. No, that's actually not the case. It's just a really, really great recreation in Australia. Beale Street, it didn't exist. It's on a set. I can't believe it. So, again, like 7 minutes, but it's amazing to see how much work they actually put into the sets here. And there's a lyric video of Trouble, the song that from a scene in the movie that never actually happened, but it's in the movie. The great song from King Creole from 1958. I think it takes place in 1956 in the movie. And there's also like great music moments. They have a highlight. Here, I'll actually show you the inside of the disc here. First of all, we have a flyer for Graceland, which if you've never been, there's never been a better time to go to Graceland, and our digital copy code. So the Blu-ray has all the special features on it, and the 4K has the movie and the music moments. It's basically just going straight to musical scenes of the film. But this is such a music-heavy movie that's nice to have that option. All right, so that's our tech specs, right? Like if you're on the fence about this, if you are like, do I get the 4K? Yeah, get the 4K. You want to get the 4K on this one. Just know it's not like, as dramatic as something that's, 35 millimeter, because digital has limitations. All right, movie review, guys. This is where we're going to get into it. I'm not going to spoil anything, really. That's not my intention here, but this is... from the moment that I first saw the trailer for Elvis, I was really conflicted because it felt too big. And now here I am on the other side of it, and I'm still really conflicted because it's too big. It is essentially a comic book movie where Elvis is the superhero and Colonel Tom Parker is the villain. And it's not, the real story is not that simple. There's a whole lot more nuance, and we all know nuance doesn't really live in a Baz Luhrmann movie. That's not what he's interested in. He's interested in, pow, big spectacle. The camera never stops moving. I don't think we go longer than 5 seconds before we cut. It's just, cut, 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 cut. Just constantly moving. And I got to tell you guys, if like as an Elvis fan, this is what's hard for me. I have to turn off my Elvis fandom to enjoy this movie. Because most of what happens in this movie, about 90% of this film, is just made up. It didn't happen. And the things in the movie that did happen, didn't happen like they happened in the movie. So that's really challenging for me because I know the story. I actually love the story of Elvis. I think it's one of the great American tragedies, right? It is Homerian. It is Shakespearean. The story of Elvis, this meteoric rise to fame, and then what happened to him. It is one of our great American tragedies. And Baz does pick up on this. But does a movie about a real person have a responsibility to tell the truth about that person? That's the question, and you can answer that. And we're going to explore this further in the future here at Cereal at Midnight. With Baz Luhrmann and Romeo and Juliet, right? He moves Romeo and Juliet to America and on the coast, right? They're fictional characters. And the Moulin Rouge, it's still kind of a fictional thing, even though we're talking about a real place. Elvis is a real person, the people that knew him, they still walk the earth. It's not like this is distant history. He's not Abraham Lincoln. So to take liberties and turn the story of a real man into a fantasy, which is what this movie is, I don't know how I feel about this. And my concern is that because these movies tend to become the public record of how, in 25 years, this is going to be a reflection of who Elvis was. But it's not the real Elvis. It's the myth of Elvis. It is Elvis as a superhero. The Tom Parker stuff, like a lot of that also didn't happen. Tom Parker didn't talk like that. He didn't have that accent. So much of this movie is fiction about a real person, about real people. And it's complicated for me. That's really challenging for me. And it's for all the Elvis fans that I know, that's challenging for them too. Because the more you know about this story, the more you realize that it's artificial. So much of this is artificial. And that's inherently the flaw of any biopic, is that it has to be artificial. It's someone playing makeup. Someone playing, it's Halloween. It's dressing up or pretending to be somebody else. And a biopic can really succeed. When it does really succeed, it's an echo of something that has already happened that shifted the culture. They're tapping into it, and it's an echo. When it doesn't work, it's just people dressing up, pretending to be something else. I don't think that the Tom Hanks performance in this movie works. I think it is he's a Batman villain. He's a James Bond villain. You expect me to talk, Colonel? No, Mr. Presley, I expect you to die. Like, it's crazy over the top, and that's not the real Colonel Tom Parker. Some of the stuff that he does in the movie did really happen, just not necessarily the way it happens in the movie. But Austin Butler is so good that it transcends and it captures the spirit of the real Elvis. And that's what we connect to with Bohemian Rhapsody. That's what we connect to with Rocket Man, so Queen, Elton John, and now Elvis. We connect with the music. We're connecting with the legacy of these icons. And for all the criticisms that I have about Elvis, again, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if I like it. I know I like aspects of it. And I know there are other aspects of it that I really do not like at all. But what I do love about Elvis is the spirit of the real man who comes through. And it has succeeded at doing something that no movie for the last 20, 25 years has been able to do. And that's to make Elvis cool again. Because, of course, Elvis is the king of rock and roll. He was he did shift the culture. The Beatles would not have existed without Elvis. So much of what we know and love about our society, about culture, about music, about art, about film, would not be what it is without Elvis. Elvis fundamentally changed our pop culture. And in the years after his death, he became a punchline. And this movie has reclaimed his legacy and said, no, no, he was amazing, and here's why. So for that, I champion this movie. I think everybody should see it and judge for themselves, but that's my thoughts. It's a very, again, I don't know if I like it. I like aspects of it. I will probably always be conflicted about this movie because it's not the story of Elvis. It's not even the story of Tom Parker. It's more complicated than that. It's kind of... It's schizophrenic at times. If it's the story of Colonel Tom Parker, why are we following Elvis to events that Tom Parker wouldn't have known anything about? The people that Elvis is, he goes into clubs and he meets people. This never happens. So much fiction, but at the core of it, the real man, the real legacy, the real legend of Elvis Presley really shines through. And of course, that music speaks across the decades to us now. And what do you guys think about this movie? Here's what I want to know. Has anyone who did not already love Elvis watched this movie and then gone to pursue Elvis music, Elvis movies? Is this a gateway to fandom for Elvis? That's my thoughts on Elvis. That's my thoughts on the 4K. I want to know what you think. Let's continue the conversation in the comments below. I'm also going to link to all my Elvis videos in the description of this video so you can check them out because I love the King. Guys, thank you so much. Take care. Until next time, I will catch you later.